So I started looking at the Bible. I did some research on that, actually quite a lot. There's also a lot written about the Bible. And actually, it's the same kind of experience I had there. More recent discussions actually start favoring more and more the historical reliability of the Bible. 5, 6, 7 decades ago, 1950s, 1960s, 1940s, that time frame, there was a lot of opposition against the Bible. Many people making outrageous claims. For instance, that the Gospels were written somewhere in the 3rd century, or something, centuries after Jesus, and they were just basically myths and made up and all that kind of stuff. Now we know that it's not the case. We're slowly but surely finding more evidence about the Bible. Through archaeology, through history, through discoveries like the Dead Sea Scrolls. We now know that the Bible is very reliable in its word, that the text hasn't changed much or anything at all over the centuries, that it was copied very, very carefully. We have correspondence of the very early church, 1st century church, 2nd century church, that already talks about the Bible texts. We even have a piece of text from the Gospel of John, which is dated in the year 125, which already, brings down the timing on the Gospels quite a lot. And most people now agree that they must have written within a generation of Jesus, his life. So the evidence found for the Bible, and also there's a very long list which I won't go right now, but brought me to the conclusion that there is a lot of evidence. And frankly, you can sum it up by saying all the discoveries made through digging in the dirt and trying to find locations and try to find more about customs and try to find more about people that lived in those days and check whether their names fit with the Bible accounts and check whether the customs fit with the Bible account, etc., etc. If you sort of put it all on a long list, you'll find again a very long list of things that basically confirm the Bible stories, but most importantly, you cannot find anything that disproves them. And that's really almost the most important part there, because it's very hard to find conclusive evidence that will prove every story in the Bible. And that's not a realistic expectation. You can't expect to find that. But if the Bible stories would not be correct, if they would be made up, it wouldn't be too hard to find evidence that disproves them. And nobody really has found it. There's obviously sometimes some discussion going on. Not everybody agrees all the time, or I should say usually they don't agree with each other. But there is not really a consensus strong case against any of the Bible stories. So the Bible became a reliable document for me, and especially the Gospel accounts and Paul's letters are very strong, reliable eyewitness accounts. If you would standards to these accounts, like if you would be sitting in a jury in a court and you would have the Gospel writers as your eyewitnesses, then you wouldn't need a long time to decide whether to believe them or not. They're very reliable, they're consistent, they corroborate with each other in all the major stories. They have little differences in details, which they should have, because otherwise they're copying each other. They add on to each other, have more detail in one than you miss in the other. They have a lot of irrelevant details, which are showing you that they're genuine, because if made-up stories usually don't have a lot of details, etc., etc. If you apply all these criteria you apply in a court, then you don't have a lot of problem finding them very reliable eyewitnesses.